Before we go any further, if this kind of deep, serious wartime analysis is why you're here, make sure you subscribe to Wartime Survival, leave a comment with your thoughts, and share this video with someone who values real history over surface-level storytelling. This channel exists for people who want to understand how wars were actually won and lost, not just who fired the last shot. Now, let's begin. For the first minute, I want you to understand one hard truth that most World War II documentaries barely touch. Entire naval battles were decided hours, sometimes days, before the first ship ever came into visual range. Not by guns or torpedoes, but by invisible signals moving through the air. Morse pulses, encrypted radio chatter, faint transmissions bouncing off the ionosphere. The crews sailing into combat often had no idea that their fate had already been shaped by men sitting in cramped rooms with headphones, notebooks, and battered cipher machines. Signal intelligence did not just support naval warfare, it quietly rewrote it. And much of that story is still overlooked. This guide is about decoding those lost naval communications, understanding how World War II signal intelligence truly worked, and most importantly, how its lessons still matter today for historians, analysts, and survival-minded thinkers. Why naval signal intelligence became the silent weapon of the seas. Naval warfare in the Second World War faced a brutal problem. Fleets operated across vast oceans where, honestly, direct observation was impossible. Radio was the only way to coordinate ships, submarines, aircraft, and supply lines. But you see, that necessity created vulnerability. Every transmission was a potential betrayal. The moment a message left an antenna, it could be intercepted by anyone listening. This is where signal intelligence, or SIGINT, became decisive. Nations that could intercept, classify, and decode enemy naval traffic gained an asymmetric advantage. They could reroute convoys before submarines arrived. They could ambush fleets that believed themselves hidden. And, really, they could conserve resources while the enemy bled fuel and ships chasing ghosts. The Allies eventually mastered this, but they did not start ahead. They learned through failure, improvisation, and relentless analysis. So, the truth is that lost naval codes were actually broken not by genius alone, but by systems. Popular history, well, it just loves those stories about lone geniuses cracking codes overnight. But honestly, the reality was far less romantic and really far more instructive. Naval code breaking was a system built on repetition, traffic analysis, and of course, human error. Interceptors, more often than not, didn't need to read every message word for word. Often, just understanding the patterns was enough. Operators, you see, logged call signs, transmission times, signal strength, and routing behavior. Over weeks, patterns started to emerge. A sudden increase in traffic from a specific naval district, well, that often meant an operation was forming. Changes in call signs indicated unit movements. Even without full decryption, analysts could infer intent. When decryption did occur, it was usually because of predictable naval behavior. Weather reports sent in known formats, routine position updates, or, let's say, poorly changed keys created entry points. Once one message was cracked, others honestly fell like dominoes. For historians today, the lesson is clear. Never study wartime communication as isolated messages. Study the system around them. That is where meaning hides. The Battle of the Atlantic, and how signal intelligence quietly strangled U-boats. Nowhere did naval signal intelligence matter more than the Battle of the Atlantic. German U-boats depended on radio to coordinate wolfpack attacks. Every time they transmitted, Allied listening stations triangulated their position. High-frequency direction finding, known as HFDUF, allowed escorts to locate submarines even before visual contact. Once German naval Enigma traffic was partially broken, the effect was devastating. Convoys were, rerouted around patrol zones. Hunter-killer groups sailed directly towards submarines, refueling or regrouping. The Germans, honestly, never fully realized how compromised their communications had become. From a practical standpoint, this teaches an enduring principle. Communication is exposure. In any survival or conflict scenario, the more you transmit, the more you reveal. Silence, brevity, and unpredictability are, defensive tools. Pacific naval warfare and how traffic analysis predicted battles. In the Pacific, U.S. naval intelligence achieved similar results against Japan, even when codes were only partially broken. Before major engagements, analysts noticed spikes in Japanese naval traffic and shifts in routing that indicated fleet movement. This intelligence contributed directly to victories like Midway, where United States forces positioned themselves based on decoded intent rather than direct sightings. What matters here is that intelligence did not replace combat skill. It shaped decision-making before combat began. Admirals trusted intercepted information enough to commit carriers into risky positions. That trust was earned through consistent analytical accuracy. For modern researchers and survival planners, this reinforces the importance of verification. Intelligence is only useful when its reliability is proven over time. So, how can modern historians and survivalists actually apply these lessons today? Well, this knowledge is certainly not just academic. If you happen to be studying conflict crisis response or even long-term survival planning, World War II Naval SIGINT offers some genuinely practical frameworks. First, it's important to analyze communication environments, not just the content itself. Whether you're looking at modern warfare, insurgencies, or disaster response networks, traffic patterns often reveal much more than the actual messages themselves. Second, you need to build redundancy and deception right into your communication plans. World War II navies quickly learned that predictable formats were, frankly, liabilities. Varying schedules, routes, and phrasing really does increase security. Third, understand that intelligence advantage compounds. A small informational edge, maintained consistently, becomes decisive over time. That principle applies to everything from military planning to personal preparedness in unstable environments. Why this history still matters more than ever. In an age obsessed with visible force, the unseen still decides outcomes. World War II naval signal intelligence reminds us that control of information often outweighs control of weapons. Ships sank not because they were weaker, but because someone else knew where they would be. For serious historians, this field remains rich with overlooked material. For survivalists, it offers timeless lessons about discretion, awareness, and the dangers of careless communication. If you value this kind of deep, no-nonsense wartime analysis, subscribe to Wartime Survival, share this video with fellow history buffs, and leave a comment with what aspect of World War II intelligence you want explored next. This channel exists to preserve and analyze the lessons that still matter, long after the radios went silent.